Well, hi, my name is Ivan. You may know me of my NSX videos. And today I'm going to start a new video series, and it's about VMC on AWS. And this particular video will be about getting to know the console a little bit better and just to find out where you can find what. So before we can do that, let's log in. And here you can see I've already been logged in, so let's sign back in again. And I'm going to sign in through SSO, so I don't have to put in a username and password for now. That's the reason why. Typically you would, well, depending on your setup, you would need to put a username and password in there. Well, here you can see that I'm logged into a certain organization, and for this demo particularly, I'm going to change the organization to this one here. And here you can see the services that are currently available for me. So you can see VMware Cloud and AWS, which I'm going to showcase. You can see Cost Insight, Log Insight, and Network Insight, all for the resources you basically host in here, or the workloads you basically host in here. I'm not going to go into these right now. So let's start by looking at the console by going into the VMware Cloud and AWS. And here you can see that I have SDDC, particularly when you have multiple SDDCs, they will be displayed in here. I only have one right now here. I'm able to create an SDDC right now, which I'm not going to do now. But here you can see an already pre-created SDDC with the CPU resources, the memory resources, and the storage resources. You can also see that I have 3 hosts available in this SDDC, which is the minimum to create an SDDC. Or VMC on AWS SDDC. You can see that my region is EU in London, and my availability zone of the region is EU West 2B. Now let's go into the actual SDDC. Now here you can still see the summary of the capacity and usage. I'm able to add another host right now, or remove a host. Well, remove a host will probably not be supported because the minimum amount of hosts that you need is 3 for an SDDC. I can add a cluster and I can edit some DRS settings. Well, let's go to the next tab, which is network and security. And here you will see, well, basically all our network settings for our SDDC. Get an overview. In the overview you can see that this SDDC has a management gateway, which is nothing more than a tier 0 NSX-T gateway, and a compute gateway, which is an, oh sorry, no, I'm saying it wrong. This is a tier 1 gateway, which is a management gateway, and this one is also a tier 1 gateway, which is the compute gateway. The management gateway will be responsible for hosting or networking the management gateways, and the compute gateway will be responsible for your workload application, your workloads. Let's continue to segments. And if you go to segments, you can create different segments here. So a segment is basically nothing more than, well, we used to call them a logical switch, but just to generalize the term, I like to use the term layer 2 broadcast domain, I guess, in a way. So you can create a segment here. I'm not going to do it right now, but just showing you what the possibilities are. So that's that. Let's go to VPN. So VPN, we can create different type of VPNs. We can create a route-based, a policy-based. Let me go through the menu. Route-based here, policy-based. This one is empty, and we can also create a layer 2 VPN. This is empty as well. We can also NAT. So, for example, if we would have here you can see a public IP address and an internal IP address, which is a one-to-one mapping. So, public IPs are here in the menu here. So, once you've requested a public IP address, and that public IP address is assigned to a specific, well, workload. No, you don't assign a public IP to a specific workload. Let's just try it. So basically you just request a public IP address, and then you use that public IP address. You just make a note of it, or a note here, and then you can use it in net. So for example, this IP address here, where it says horizon ending with 106, you can see in netting this 106 is actually used and is netted to an internal IP address of an internal workload inside the VMC and AWS platform. Let's go to security. So we have firewalls. We have the gateway firewall, we have distributed firewall. The gateway firewall is nothing more than a firewall either on the tier 1 gateway for management or on the tier 1 gateway for compute. So here you can, these are just treated like normal firewalls. You can have a source, a destination, a service where you basically allow or deny, and you can enable logging as well. We can do this for management workloads, so for ESXi hosts, ACX hosts, or ACX appliances, vCenter servers, these kind of things. For compute is basically everything that runs on your compute workloads domain. So distributed firewall, we can also have distributed firewall. Here you can see the different type of rules that you can specify. You can add in sections, and this behaves like a regular distributed firewall as you're used to within NSX-V or NSX-T. So let's go to groups. So when you specify a group, you can use this group for a source or a destination inside your firewall rules. You can specify a management group, a workload group, or, well, the rest, I guess, virtual machines groups. You can add in a group, so let's try. Here you can specify a group, and then you can select your virtual machines. You can group based on IP addresses, or based on certain membership criteria, where you basically say, okay, every VM with the name development needs to be in a group. And then once the group is created, you can use those groups inside of a distributed firewall rule or even a gateway firewall. For services, the same. I can, what I'm doing, yes. Yeah, so I can add a new service. Most of the services are already added, but let's say you have a port which is not specified yet here, you can add it in. So you can add a service, type in a name, and then based on the protocol and the port, you can specify that here. Add a service entry, IP, for example, TCP, source port, whatever, 80, which is HTTP, which already exists, so I'm not going to add it. And let's say I want to cancel this. Let's search for HTTP, and there are a lot of them. So this one is HTTPS, and this one is the HTTP that I just tried to create. So it's already there. Anyway, so this is how you specify services, and these services can also be used in your gateway firewall or distributed firewall rules where you can specify them. Let's go to IPFix. So IPFix is basically a collector that you can configure to collect your network data. You can configure a collector here. We're not going to do it right now. Port mirroring, also a way of dumping network data to a specific machine. So you can take network data from your SDDC environment and forward that to another virtual machine where you can capture all of the data. For example, to a Wireshark box where you can look more deeply into your network data. So the REST system, you can specify a DNS relay. right now, you can also specify multiple DNS zones. So let's say this one is a default zone, but if I want to add in a new zone with a dedicated DNS server, I can also specify that in here with a, well, dedicated domain name. Right now, this one is a default zone, and it's using the Google DNS servers, as you can see here. For DHCP, it doesn't do DHCP on its own, but let's say if you create a segment here and you want to, so when you create a segment here, add segment, you're capable of, let's give it a name, for example, test. You're capable of enabling DHCP here. That means that the DHCP server will automatically, or service, will automatically be enabled for this segment here. Let's say if you specify a segment 10.10.10.0/24 and home.local, for example, let's make this a VMC home. VMC home.local. And I can also specify a DHCP range. But so let's say if I enable the DHCP here, it means that it will enable a DHCP service for this segment. So this segment here, segment here will basically get an IP address from a DHCP server that is automatically enabled. If you don't do that, you're capable of using your own. I'm going to cancel here. You're capable of using your own DHCP server in that segment, or in another segment, but that's where the DHCP relay comes in. If you configure the relay, it will basically relay the requests of your IP address request of the segment towards that DHCP server that you've created by yourself. Okay, public IP addresses, so we've already gone through. Here you can request a new public IP address, where you basically request a new public IP address. I just do a note here. Let's do a test. Pub IP, and let's hit save. And here you can see it. I've added it successfully. Well, let's get it released again, because if you're not using it, you're getting charged. And this public IP address translates into an elastic IP address in AWS. Well, let's go to Direct Connect. So this is a way of providing Direct Connect services towards your on-prem environment. We don't have this configured here. So as you can see, Direct Connect interfaces is kind of empty. Connected VPCs. Here you can see where this VMC on AWS SDDC is actually landed, in what the VPC ID is, and what AWS account we're using within this VPC. So having this all seen, let's go to the add-on tab. Let's just click yes. Here you can see the VMC on AWS add-ons. So here you can see ACX, which is kind of active here for this SDDC, and here we can see site recovery, where we can configure our disaster recovery events. Right now this one is not activated yet. I will not activate it right now. This is for another video. But for example, ACX, let's open the ACX. So ACX is like a whole thing on its own, but let's open it so you can see how it looks like for now. And here you can see that it's redirecting me to the SDDCs, or the where ACX is actually enabled on what SDDC. So I can have multiple SDDCs in here with multiple ACX deployments as well. So if I do open ACX, it will open the login page to my ACX manager. And I will be able to log in here, which I will not do right now because this is for another video. Let's close this. Maintenance will basically provide you information when your SDDC is being maintained by VMware. So right now there's nothing upcoming. Sometimes there needs to be host upgrades, vSphere upgrades, or vCenter upgrades. This console also needs to be upgraded sometimes to introduce new features. Whenever there's maintenance, it will be listed here. Also, and troubleshooting. Let's say, for example, here we have different type of troubleshooting elements. Now, the only thing that's only available is the hybrid link mode troubleshooting. As you can see, there are 21 tests that you can run. Once you've configured hybrid link mode, you need layer 2 VPN for that. Once you configure it, you can test out a few different things just to make sure that, well, your connection is correct. So it tests the on-prem vCenter server, it tests your platform service controller on-prem, it tests all of this on-prem things. So you just make sure that your on-prem environment is okay, and okay enough to make sure that it runs correctly with your VMC and AWS SDDC to run a proper hybrid environment. Settings. And here you can see the default settings. So the default user account, how do you log into the HTML client, the API Explorer, Power CLI Connect, and the vCenter server fully qualified domain names, and the IP addresses and the private IP address. So these are all the information, all the information that you need for your SDDC to manage it correctly. Well, ACX is here as well. We've just logged in through this FQDN. So that's it. Regarding support, so whenever you have a problem with your SDDC, you need to go to support here, to this tab, and here there's a bunch of information that you need to provide in order to get your support. So if you contact support, you need to, for example, provide your org ID in your SDDC ID. And so what's also another important thing, by the way, is the SDDC version. So that's the version of this console. So if this would have this version changed, it means that there are some improvements or some new features there. So there's one more thing before I close this video that I would like to show you. You notice this button here, Open vCenter. We're going to go through that. So here, let's go to subscriptions first. Here you can see I have 0 subscriptions. Activity log, a lot of things happened. Here you can see that somebody removed the SDDC, deployed the SDDC. There's been a lot of things. A lot of things have happened in here. So yeah, you can basically see what's happening with your SDDC and who's doing what. Let's go to tools. There's the DCLI bundle, where you can basically create an SDDC with your command line. Onboarding assistant, which basically gives you an overview of how to start. vCenter Cloud Gateway. We're not going to use these things right now. Let's go to Development Center. Here in Development Center, you can see everything regarding code, how to automate your SDDC or things within your SDDC by using either the API Explorer and different code examples, an SDK, and also download some of these things here. So let's go back to SDDCs. Let's go back to my SDDC here and the Open vCenter button, what I was just telling you about. So if you go to Open vCenter, it will open the vCenter for this specific SDDC. Well, before we could do that, and this is going to be explained in another video, but before we could open our vCenter server, we needed to open a gateway firewall rule from the internet, so a management gateway firewall rule from the internet towards this here. So if we go to gateway firewall, you can actually see the rule here. Let me see if it's created. vCenter inbound, where we have any source going to the vCenter server, and we basically allow ICMP, single sign-on, and HTTPS, port 443. This is allowed. So that's the whole reason why we're capable of clicking this button here. The firewall was already created, I guess. Open vCenter server. There you go. And I'm capable of doing that. I just did the show credentials. I'm not going to log in this for this vCenter server right now because that's for another lecture, but I just wanted to show you how the console looks like. If you have any questions, just send me an email. My email will be, I guess, or no, not an email, just send me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll be capable of forwarding you to the right resource or, well, answering the question myself. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye bye.